I am Jen Goldman. I am a pediatric infectious disease physician over at Children's Mercy, and I co-lead the TL1 training program.
Okay, we're going to have our panelists in. This is loud. We're going to have our panelists introduce themselves in just a second. But first off, I think it would be helpful. I mean, we have kind of a script and an idea of what we could go through today, but it'd be helpful to know from the audience, just we don't have to do individual introductions, but who are you? Like, are you a high school student? Are you a college student? Are you an undergrad? Are you junior faculty? And kind of what do you hope, why are you here? And what are you hoping to learn from this session? And then I think that would help us tailor this a bit more. Any brave soul who wants to speak up would be helpful. If not, I'll call on you.
I'll run it to you.
I'm Bianca. I am a clinical research supervisor at KU. And I didn't have any specific reason on why I chose this, just kind of interested in seeing what's discussed.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm a research assistant at Children's Mercy and incoming medical student at KU Med. I start this summer, and I'm just really interested in kind of hearing about more of the T1 kind of opportunity and what that looks like, and those who have experienced it, what that has looked like for them. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Wumi. I'm a research associate at Children's Mercy. And right now I'm not on the faculty career track, but I want to see how that looks like, what's the experience, and if it's something I could, easily transition into.
Okay, I've picked on the Children's Mercy people, so somebody else, pick on somebody else.
We've got someone online who says, I am interested in learning more about the TL1 program and how picking a mentor works. I'm currently a graduate student at K-State.
All right, so I'm David Centino. I am currently, a grad student at UMKC with, the bioinformatics program. And even though I, really, very much considering going to like industry for like healthcare or technology, I mean, I'm still kind of curious as to like what this program is, about picking a mentorship, I'm just honestly, I like to learn, so came to a session, seeing what I can find there,
Hello, my name is Joanna, and I'm the Workforce Heterogeneity Navigator at Frontiers. And we, part of Workforce Heterogeneity, we want to create a robust mentorship program for KL2 scholars who are applying for the application. So I'm here just for little nuggets of wisdom from some of the KL2 scholars who I've already talked to. And if you are a current KL2 scholar and want to give me some feedback, I would love to hear it.
And we do have some former TL1 pre-doc trainees here too that you guys can hammer with questions after or during, and they can provide information on what the program offered them.
Okay, let's start by first giving an overview of these programs. Do you want to do the TL1 pre?
So there are two TL1 program types. There's a pre-doctoral, so typically for medical students, pharmacy students, physical therapy students, or PhD students who are in their kind of master's aspect of their training. And that is a year program. It's 100% effort. And you spend that year, so I'll give the example of medical students, they would have done typically their first 2 years of medical school classroom training. They would take a year off between that and their clinical, and they would spend a year getting intense mentorship and training. So they would complete a master's in clinical research. they would have a mentorship team, like a primary mentor, and they would have a research project during that year. But much of it is intensely focused on completing the master's, and then your research project really aligns nicely with that master's. And so then that is your capstone at the end of your master's as well. And then I think we'll give an overview of all the programs together at the end. Okay. Oh, and then the postdoc is for those who have already completed their degree. And it is a 2-year program, and it is really focused on heavily on research. So again, it is really for that postdoctoral training when young faculty are thinking about their transition more towards either a K or even towards more independence. And it allows them to have 2 years of funding. Both of these fund not only, you know, the training itself, but then salaries and things like that. But it really allows a dedicated focus for research, and then some opportunity also for formalized coursework or additional training as well. So 2 years postdoc, no master's requirement, because again, it's already post-training, focused heavily on research.
Okay, and then the third program is the KL2 program. That is a program for junior faculty. So these are individuals who have faculty appointments at one of our, I'm going to get this wrong, partner institutions. All right, Julius? Yes. There's a difference between partners and collaborators, but so one of our partner institutions. And the KL2 program is a mentored career development award for 2 years. It provides the opportunity to work on, it's usually an independent research project, but it's usually an independent research project that's somehow tied to the mentor, the lead mentor, and the work that they're doing, with the idea that at the end of the 2 years, you will have submitted, that person will have submitted a grant for their own independent funding, generally a K award. Sometimes these are smaller R21 or small R20, R01 grants. But the K program is geared towards individuals who need additional training in key areas. So for example, let me come up with an example. So say someone is doing a diet and nutrition related project, but they've never really worked on a diet and nutrition related in the diet and nutrition related field, they would get training in that. Some people need additional training in biostatistics in order to analyze data on projects. That's fairly common. Some people have never had any training in clinical trials. And so that would be another kind of common training area or training goal. And this project, the KL2 program provides funding for, it's primarily salary support for the trainee up to 75%. Although there's some limits on there. No, it's up to 100%. It's up to a certain dollar amount. Has to be at least 75% effort. And then there's a small amount of money provided for the research project.
And for physicians who need additional clinical time, it can go down to 50% if they have like a surgery fellow or someone like that. And then I was just going to say the overarching scholarship for all of these opportunities and programs we all come together, and I think, our scholars right now will tell you a little bit about that, but we all come together monthly to focus on not only research, but all of the other navigations of pursuing a career in research. So mentorship, publishing, how to communicate with your mentor, how to navigate maybe a new track if your research isn't going as planned, which is almost always the case. And so those we meet monthly to come together and do that under a Frontier Scholarship Club. And then every scholar has their own individualized development plan as well.
Okay. Any questions before we kind of turn it over to the panel? Nope. Okay. So we are going to now turn it over to the panel. And what we'd like you to respond to think about first is introduce yourself, your name, what program you're in, and then why or what led you to apply for the respective program that you're currently in.
My name is Aaron Smith. It's loud. It's good. And I'm in the TL1 postdoctoral program. And kind of a tongue-in-cheek answer why I applied for this at first is I needed funding. So I wouldn't be sitting here right now if I did not get this grant because my PI, my boss, did not have funding for a postdoctoral scholar. So it allowed me to stick around in Kansas City and pursue my area of research interest. And more other reasons why I applied for it is I talked to previous TL1 scholars while I was writing my grant, what they liked about it, what they didn't like, and everything was really positive. To everything what they just described was has great support. The mentors and the program really want you to succeed. So it just made a lot of sense to where I wanted to be. This was the bridge to start me along that path.
Hey everybody, my name is Cole Bird. I am one of the TL1 pre-doctoral scholars. I'm taking this year between my second and third year of medical school. The reason I applied is twofold. First, I had some momentum growing with a research idea, and my mentor suggested, hey, this may be worth getting some structured guidance, a master's in clinical research, having some really honed mentoring time to help get this idea off the ground and have it be sustainable. And so that was a big reason that I applied, and I'm thankful that I got this award. But also, life, my wife and I welcomed our first child. And so this year has allowed me to be heavy on research, but also a little more flexibility than the third year clerkship rotations allow. And so I've been able to juggle both, which has been very big for me.
Hi, I'm Brittany Martinez, and I'm a TL1 postdoc scholar. So like Aaron, I also needed funding, but in addition to that, I trained as a basic scientist, but my project is starting to take a more translational sort of approach, and we thought that this would be a good way for me to understand how translational research is conducted and to be in an environment with people already doing translational research.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a pediatric hemonc physician at Children's Mercy and we're in Kansas City, Children's Mercy, Kansas City. And I'm doing my TL1 postdoc, so we're heavily represented here, but I'm in my second year of that. And for me, I applied at the end of my hemonc fellowship. During all the subspecialty fellowships, at least in pediatrics, you have some dedicated research time, and that's when I was introduced to the lab for the first time, which if anyone does any lab research, that's not near enough time to actually get a project off the ground. I think I just learned how to use a pipette and really have a project idea by the end of the year and a half I had to work on it. And so I was really looking for any opportunity to extend that protected time because anyone in the medical world knows when you're a new faculty too, and if you're all clinical, that really probably takes over everything. And so I didn't know a lot about this program. I will say when I applied, I saw that it was a lot of protected time, and I saw there was an opportunity to get a lot of mentorship, which is what I was looking, knowing that I needed more training, more mentorship to be successful. And it also helped me gain mentorship at Children's Mercy. I had been doing research over at Stowers, and so it was a nice way to find a new mentor and really hone that relationship. So I'm super grateful. I've learned a lot more about the program, and I actually am hopeful to get to share that with others, especially in kind of this hybrid position of clinical and research.
My name is Alice Zhang, and I am an assistant professor at the KU Medical Center. My training background is in behavioral analysis, and as a clinician, I work with children with autism. And the reason that I applied to KL2 project, kind of like Dr. Lunan mentioned earlier, is that I work with children with autism in many ways, but my project interest is related to feeding and eating. And that's an area that I do not have a formal training in research or clinical. So wanting to apply for K-23 that can support me in doing my work. While I was working with my mentor on my K-23 application, we realized there's the KL2 opportunity, which has been a wonderful opportunity for me to be able to develop some groundwork for my K-23 while I'm continuing to pursue my K-23. So definitely applying is out of the need to be able to get the funding to do the work, but also having that protected time to do the learning and training and to be able to focus on developing the project.
Guys, first of all, this we hope is very informal. So if there's any questions along the way, please just feel free to ask them. But I would like to ask you all, can you talk a little bit about some of the aspects of the formal training, whether it's coursework or other things that you've done and kind of how that's helped develop your research or, yeah.
So my PhD was in nutrition, and my PI still does nutritional interventions, but I had no background in neuroscience whatsoever. And my proposed training, as well as where I want to be in the future, is kind of at the intersection of nutrition and neuroscience. So I got both a primary mentor and a secondary mentor that has some background in neuroscience. Then additionally with Frontiers, I was able to take coursework to fill that gap of not having any neuroscience training whatsoever, and also have more money to put into neuroscience techniques. So a lot of both formal training as well as other avenues that are going to get me closer to being that interventionist at between dietary interventions and neuroscience. Yeah. It is. Yeah, for me, it was getting involved into those dietary interventions in neuroscience outcomes. So during my PhD, I didn't really have a lot of that. So both my primary and my secondary mentor have got me involved in those actual research studies. And then, as I mentioned, doing the coursework in neuroscience. So building that background so I actually knew what I was talking about and just not making things up. So both the formal intervention side and then additionally the coursework to fill the gaps of the knowledge that I did not have.
Yeah, the Masters of Clinical Research is filling a lot of gaps that I had in medical school. I learned, hey, that's an odds ratio, and I think it's important, or I kind of know what a p-value is, and that's the truth because we have other things that are a priority in that education, and so getting to step back and take courses in epidemiology, in advanced stats, look at clinical trials, grant writing, scientific writing, all these things that make researchers really good, but aren't often given space in the medical curriculum. I just am finding great benefit in that. I found already that I took Dr. Nolan's grant writing class, and the skills and the discipline that grant writing takes could be a 3-year degree. And so even just getting the exposure of grant writing and being able to kind of wiggle in some painful areas and grow allows me to acknowledge, hey, this is a field that I have a little more insight on. I know how I can grow, and I can give myself like a plan of, hey, next time I write a grant, I think that the method section or the approach is going to be even stronger. It may not be, first time I'm going to get my R01 right away, but I know that each time it's going to get easier. And I'm really thankful that I'm going through this learning curve now so early in my career, so that as I finish medical school, I'm in residency, I'm in an early attending career, I can have a little bit of that under my belt and I can hopefully be more successful with this foundation. Yeah. Absolutely. So One of the things that I first really came to realize is doing a master's degree in a year takes a lot of your time, and trying to juggle a research project and getting good progress done also takes a lot of time. And so it was almost out of necessity that I was like, okay, whatever I do in this master's, I need to make sure I'm double dipping, I'm getting all of the skills that I need to graduate, but also progress on this. And luckily, my mentor has been super helpful in, okay, I took a bioinformatics course and I'm looking at Heron and the All of Us data set. That may not be directly applicable to my research question, but what questions can I ask with that lens that down the road might be beneficial? Or like the scientific writing course I'm in right now, I'm working on a review article that is going to help support some of the future work that I plan on doing. And so it's just, one, having a good future-focused mentor is really important, but also trying to figure out, okay, this is what I think my trajectory is, and here are the requirements from this course. How can I make both of them kind of work? How can I maybe shift or pivot in a way that I'm taking steps towards my goal, but also doing all the things necessary of those courses?
So as far as formal training so far, I've only taken the research ethics and scientific writing. Now, I took research ethics when I started my PhD, and I didn't foresee the classes being as different as they were. So the one that we took for the fellowship was very human-based, as it should be, because it's for clinical trials and such. But the training I originally took was for like mouse work and just research ethics in your experiments. So it really did open my eyes to thinking of outside of like my very specific research focus. And then also for the scientific writing, when you write with your mentor multiple papers and all of these things, I think we both then tend to get the same writing style. And then no one else is reading it, right? And so now that Dr. Zink and Dr. Cox are reading it, like it opens up my eyes to some, other ways that we could maybe communicate the information, because it makes so much sense to us because that's all we do. But if other people are reading it, it gives another perspective, and it's been really helpful in my writing.
I think I'm going to kind of echo what others have said, especially Cole, since I'm from the medical world. I think as a TL1 postdoc, we don't have to do the full master's, so you can kind of cherry pick your different classes. I took quite a few starting out. I'm so impressed by our pre-doc TL1s who do a full master's, because it does take a lot of time, especially as someone who hadn't taken classes in a long time. But I also enjoy getting to go back in the classroom and just have that dedicated time, because throughout medical training, I did bioinformatics multiple times, but when I actually took the advanced courses at KU, I learned so much more, learned how to do some R coding, which has been super beneficial, at least as a start. And I think what it comes down to is just having that protected time and space to get to do that, especially in the clinical world. Because as a fellow or a resident, or a medical student, when you're doing some of those courses, it's just hard to focus in when you're learning so many other skills. So I think it's just being able to focus in. And so those have been incredibly helpful. And I'll also echo the grant writing class was really helpful for me. I know that it was mentioned that for the TL1, you should be thinking about, okay, next steps is a K grant. And I knew a little bit about the NIH process, but I didn't think it was really meant for me. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but I feel like I just didn't have a lot of mentors or people in front of me who had done that in the clinical world. And so actually being through this program and going through grant writing, I realized, oh my gosh, this is something I can do. And so I think it just really made me feel empowered that I can work towards a K grant, maybe eventually an R grant too. So I think those were both really helpful. And then the last thing I was going to say, because no one's really touched on the Scholars Club and the different curriculum that we go through for that. I think what's been most helpful for me is that we talk through mentorship and what that looks like. mentorship expectations and how to sort of go about when there's difficulties navigating sort of your mentorship relationship. I haven't had a lot of difficulties, but I think knowing what I know now, I would go very differently about having conversations early on to set expectations, because I think when you're starting out, it's easy to just not want to bother your mentor, and you're not sure what they want, and you're not sure if they know what you want. And so I think it's made me feel more comfortable in that space of it's okay to set expectations, and that'll make you much more successful moving forward.
I would agree with all that has been said. I haven't had a chance to take my formal courses yet. I will take it next year. But just so far, I think, the Scholar Club and all the opportunities that resulted from the KL2 training has been super helpful. And also, again, just want to echo the time protection that has been such a big part for me, where, I was even able to go back and work on some of the data that I had for several years that I didn't have time to look at. And I was actually able to, get a couple of manuscripts that were sitting there for like a couple of I think a couple of years is understatement. So I just really, really think that this is like opportunities, like a really comprehensive support, which I really enjoy.
Do we have any questions from the audience? We can keep going. We have lots of questions to ask these folks, but let's pause. What questions, if any, does the audience have for our panelists? There must be some. Okay, good. Yay.
I'm just curious, thinking about like the 2-year time frame and the fact that you're kind of like juggling really rigorous training protocol with an independent research project sometimes too. Can you maybe just speak to what that balance and time commitment looks like, and maybe how you helped set yourself up for success with those things going on?
Well, for me, and I think most everyone will echo this, is the good thing about writing a grant to get this funding is Frontiers saw that the project you were doing was fundable and was going to be accomplished in that 2-year time frame. And then additionally with that grant, you have a very strong training plan that you submit with it. So really for me, it was once I got the notice of award, it was just sticking to that training plan timeline that I had and kind of checking things off as they went. So it was difficult during the writing and planning phase, but once I got the grant out there, it was kind of just sticking to that. So that's probably not the answer you're looking for, but it was all kind of streamlined for me already once I wrote the grant.
To be able to apply for this award, you do have to, any of them, you do have to get a letter of support from, it's generally your department chair, it could be other people, but who says basically, we are going to free this individual of their other responsibilities so that they have 75% protected time, depending on the program, or 100% time. So there is some legwork that has to happen before. You have to have that ahead of time. If you are wanting to enroll in this program or apply for this program and you can't get that, that really is your first clue that it would not work. So that's something that's important to know. Okay.
Sure. So again, I'm in the TL1 postdoc. It is 100%. It was, I was nervous about that initially because I was just graduating from my fellowship. And so I definitely wanted a little clinical time. So it's still pretty minimal. I was just doing a couple weeks of inpatient service, which actually is pretty adequate. It's close to what you do as faculty. And I would occasionally see my own patients. I'll admit, I'm not supposed to do that, but I didn't have that many still. It didn't take much time. They did okay. It's hard to stay away. This is why we go into oncology. We love our patients. But I think, I mean, that kind of protected time is pretty unprecedented, especially in HEMONC. We're pretty attached, as I said. So I think my division did a really good job protecting my time. And I certainly, I wasn't on call for those patients or anything like that if an issue came up. And so I think having that protection up front was really helpful. And I think just because we set those expectations early on, that's really what set me up for success to have such protection. I was going to say I have had a little bit of a different experience as far as I did have all this plans for the 2 years, hit the ground running. I think that was helpful in that I had had done some of the basic training and kind of knew what I was going to do for the 2 years. But as science goes, things have certainly failed and I've had to pivot several times. So that's made it challenging, but I think it's helped me develop the skills of how to pivot and to sort of change what my goals are in the time frame. And I've also been sort of trying to figure out, okay, how do I build from here? What can I accomplish in this 2 years that I can build from, or transition these skills maybe to a slightly different project? So I think that even though it's not gone as planned, it's been enough time to sort of have that pivoting and also the ability to sort of plan what those next steps are.
Any other audience questions so far? We can keep going.
Yeah, I was just going to say one thing. When the formal coursework became like reality, that was probably the hardest thing for me to like actively engage back into, because I graduated with my PhD in 23 summer, and then this started in like summer of 24. So I had several months of not, and I hadn't been in classes in a long time. So aligning with I'm getting a grade for this class, and it's very important that I am there and paying attention and doing everything, was probably the hardest part. But as a scientist, it's always busy anyway. So I didn't get any extra time, I just had to make it work in my schedule. So that was the hardest part.
I think the key though well, for the pre-docs who have to enroll in the MSCR, it's separate, but for the crafting a training plan, I think you guys both addressed this, which is crafting a training plan that is a perfect segue to actually what you need. So you're not doing it because you have to, you're doing it because you want to, and because it's going to benefit you. Like, it doesn't make shoot, I have to actually do the work and take a grade, do this for a grade and write the papers and take a test, which for a lot of us, we haven't done in a long time. But the fact that you're doing it for a larger purpose, I think helps. At least that's what I've been told for folks who take the grant writing.
And I do want to highlight too, one thing that I think we briefly mentioned, but each scholar has their own individualized development plan. And part of that is kind of navigating what you need to succeed to go on to after this program is over. And all of the scholars meet with one of the leads as well as Holly quarterly with their mentor or mentors. And we review the IDP, see what's on track, see what's maybe not. And I will say one of the best joys of leading the program is watching scholars as they learn to navigate on their own, as they're addressing maybe even some challenges with mentors, or experiments aren't going, their way. And so that is one other opportunity to make sure that you're staying on track, that your needs are being met, everyone's at the table together, as you kind of navigate through this program.
Also, the training doesn't have to be formal coursework. Some of it will be. There are some required elements of formal coursework, but going to a conference, being a presenter at a conference, either oral or poster, those are formal training opportunities that are, those can go in your training plan, and they're considered formal training opportunities that are covered by the award. So don't think of this as just sitting in a class, learning extra stuff. There are plenty of workshops and webinars and things that are offered in respective fields. If you want to go to Maine for 2 weeks in the summer, there's a fantastic program there in epidemiology and biostatistics. Like, you can look for opportunities like that. And we've had trainees who have done like 2 weeks at a lab of a collaborator somewhere else in the summer, right? So maybe they've gone to that lab for 2 weeks to actually learn from that individual. That's training too. So I think you can think about it more broadly when you are thinking about what the training looks like. It has to be relevant to you and what's going to provide you what you need to get to the next level.
So maybe one thing, a couple of things that potential applicants for the Ts or Ks might be interested in are ways in which participation in the program met your expectations, but perhaps ways in which it did not, so that maybe we could address that. It's not a multiple choice question. I don't have any. I don't have options for you to choose from.
I mean, I think my expectations were probably exceeded through the program. I mean, I'm gonna tell y'all, I was like fangirling over this thing so bad. I wanted it so bad that I would have done anything to get it, and I got it, and so it's very exciting. But they're just very supportive of us. And, in our scholars clubs, like we can really, whatever's bothering us, we really talk about it. And they've done strengths training with us. And we've, learned about our Clifton strengths, as well as we've done Cymer training, which is like taught us how to be mentors, because those are things that you don't actually get taught how to do. And so all of the things that we do at the Scholars Club sort of, I would say, enhance everything that we've already written into the training plan. And so we're getting the targeted training that we needed, plus these other things that are kind of like a bonus. And for me, it's been great. And it's also put me in a place to understand translational research more than I did before, because it's where I would like to end up. So for me, it's been great.
Yeah, I was going to say, again, I didn't know a lot going in, so I don't know if I had a lot of expectations. I mean, that sounds negative. I was very excited about it. Sorry. I don't mean, oh my gosh. I felt so like, it was like what do you call, like a moonshot. I was like, there's no way. I was completely shocked to get to be part of this. So I should humble myself in that way. Geez Louise. But I felt very lucky to be part of it. But I just, I think one part that's been really nice is getting to meet all these other researchers across institutions. So I think that was a surprise, or not a surprise. I knew we'd have these meetings, but I've really enjoyed getting to hear about other projects and the different types of research happening in Kansas City, and also the different venues for funding and how people go about it. I think any of us who, well, I guess PhD or on the MD-DO side too, is that we do a lot of mentorship for upcoming fellows, residents who are interested in research. So it just made me passionate, even if it's not my type of research, all these different opportunities. I think there's so many missed opportunities. I think of our fellows have such great ideas and they could have really great careers pursuing something. And I just think they're unaware. And so I'm really excited to get to connect up and coming trainees to some of the connections here through this program and through Frontiers. And so I think that's just been a really cool and exciting opportunity, so that others will know more than I did.
So I would totally agree with everything that has been said about the cohorts and getting to know different researchers at different stage and just totally different subject area as well. For me, I definitely feel like what has been shared before is that the training is supposed to help you to reach your career goal. So one of the example for me is that I think while I was applying for K23, I applied for KL2, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I need to adjust my research activities so that I can align better with my K23 application. So I actually have to change the scope of my work a little bit once I started it. And everyone has been so helpful with that process. I think the message that I heard is that whatever that would help you to facilitate your career is not that we're going to hold you accountable to this thing, and then it doesn't make sense to support your career. So just that one example, just I really feel like this is really supposed to be something that helps me to reach my goal. So for me, I feel like everything has been so wonderful, expecting my expectation, because I definitely know a couple of past KL2 awardees, and then they were mentioning there were some challenges during the COVID-19 and everything. So of course, everything runs so much better now as well. So I would say definitely exceeded my expectation.
I have nothing too unique if you want to move on.
Same.
Okay, so those individuals who are interested in applying or thinking about applying for one of these programs, how do they get started? Walk us through the process. What do you do first? And how do you get started?
Yeah, I think one of the
Including picking a mentor.
Yes, which I think is one of the biggest points. This program is huge on mentorship, and so I think finding someone who you feel has some traits in how they conduct their research, or they're in a position that you might want to be in one day, and that you connect with on a deeper level is huge, and that I strongly believe will be directly proportional to your productivity in this year. So finding a good mentor is huge. My mentor does not do the same line of work that my project is under. It was kind of, hey, I really am passionate about you as an individual student, and I see a lot of potential in you. So let's navigate these waters, for the first time together. But I think because I have such a good mentor, that single-handedly the most important factor. And so finding a mentor can be really hard, and sending cold emails and being like, hey, can you be like the perfect match for me? Or like, can we go on some first scientific dates to figure out if we're going to be a good fit? It's daunting. It really is. And so I think some of the ways you can do that is a lot of departments, at least in the medical side, have some form of weekly, every other week, monthly research meetings, and you can go attend, get a feel for what kind of research is going on. If there are any research assistants or research fellows in the department, talking with them and saying, hey, who are the nice people to interact with? And that's just the reality, because you want someone who is going to see you, value you, and help push you onto the next stage of your career.
I would agree 100% with that. And I will take a different avenue after you found your mentor and then you're thinking about writing your grant and getting your training plan in place. So something that I have kind of gotten ingrained in me when I'm writing training grants is you got to think about, who are you? What have you done? And then how is this funding mechanism going to get you where you want to be? And you want to spell that out extremely clearly. So I kind of touched on it a little bit when I was answering the question about how Frontiers is, what's the question? Something about, training plan and balancing time. Is that right? Yeah. So humans are kind of fundamentally, we're lazy. So when people are reviewing grants, they don't have a lot of time. So you have to be extremely clear of how this 2 years or whatever it may be is going to get you where you want to be. And you want to lead the reviewer point by point. So I had a table that was extremely granular in my grant. I even had what textbooks I was going to buy, what courses I was going to take, what I was going to be doing each month and each semester that I was getting closer to my goal. So again, just who are you? How is this funding mechanism going to get you where you want to be?
I had something similar to that in my training plan. I had a timeline of this was what I was going to do during, this and this, and this is what the end goal was and where the publications were. But the person that is my mentor is the person I did my PhD with. So this whole finding a mentor thing is very confusing to me. Because it's just, he's just there, right? So I don't know. But you know what I mean? That's what we're doing. So, but when we got started, we really, really focused on the letter of intent to make sure the message that we were, I even met with both Jen and Nikki to just make sure, like, am I even in the right ballpark? Are we even close? And they, gave me some advice, and we really tailored the letter of intent to what the goal of the training program was. And then once, we saw that went well, we did the exact same thing for the grant. So, the aims matched exactly what we put in the letter of intent, and then the training plan basically was the timeline of how I was going to get to the goal.
I do want to highlight one thing though, as the early medical students, you may be on a different, level than someone who is completing their PhD as identifying mentors. We are here for that as well. The earlier you come to us, the more we can help navigate potentially identifying mentors. And especially for pre-doc TL1s who maybe are very interested in research. Some may not have any experience. That should not deter you from reaching out to us, and we can help navigate and try to find, someone that you can work with during the program.
Yeah, just to echo that, I would say that, our role there, it's myself and Jen, and then there's two individuals who aren't here today, but Matt Mosconi is on the Lawrence campus, and then Jake Sosnoff is also at KU Med. But our role really is as advisors. And so if you think you're interested in one of these programs and you have no idea where to start, that's why we're here. So contact us, and we'd be happy to meet with you. We have applications that we can share. We have, a list of individuals who would be good mentors. We're pretty well connected. We've been around a long time, so we know, who does what at our respective institutions, and we can connect people. So I would say that if you are interested and just have no idea, don't let that be a deterrent. Contact us. That's why we're here.
I can also answer the last question. I think, just to echo, I think the mentorship and training plan is most important, but just to speak to the research plan, I think something that really helped me is that I had already applied to another grant and gotten a lot of feedback. And so I think as you're writing grants, you always get this feedback, is have a lot of people look at it, get a lot of feedback. So it took time to sort of make that into what it was. And I think my message was a lot clearer once I was applying for the TL1. So I think that was incredibly helpful, as disappointing as it was to get rejected. And I was just entering the whole grant world. So I know those that have been in it, that is kind of par for the course. And someone gave the advice recently that sometimes clinicians don't do as well when they're starting to enter the world of science, because you're not used to so much failure, and it's the people who roll with the failures that are more successful. So I really kind of like that advice. So, because failure happens all the time. And so I know I'm kind of naive and still at the beginning of this grant process, but really a lot of good came out of that first rejected grant. So I was able to make big changes, and it makes you really think about your project too. And so I think it actually made it a much better project in the end.
For me, again, I echo what has been said, and also the importance of making sure you actually not only write this yourself, but also have someone review it, have your mentor review it, and before you submit it, because, if you don't, maybe you think it's good, but it's actually not. And also the importance, based on my recent review of the TL1 application, that is really important to follow the instructions. So that's one thing, like really follow the instructions, making sure you answer everything based on, what they are asking you. But another thing that I want to share is that, so for me, I kind of have a somewhat non-traditional pathway, because first, I'm an international student from the start, and also I don't really have an NIH background in my training. So my PhD work and everything is not NIH supported. So for a long time, I have this notion that NIH is not for me. I'm not an NIH material, something like that. And also always think that NIH is going to be more for like biomedical research, not for social behavioral research, which is wrong. And so a lot of times when I even see those information, I'm like, this is not going to be for me. Or maybe thinking about it, even if you can access that information, knowing that there is KL2 or TL1, there is an opportunity itself, it's actually meaning that you are already on a platform. Somehow you have more knowledge than other people who do not have that information. So I guess just like making sure that through this process, empower yourself. And sometimes that really means that you have to reach out to a mentor and talk to people and knowing that, yeah, this is for you. And even if it's not originally for you, but you can make it for you. So yeah.
Go to a question here.
Well, thank you for mentioning that because that brought to mind what I actually needed to, like I was confused about. Is there a residency requirement for any of the postdoctoral programs? So you can be an international student. Yeah, residency. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jennifer, and I'm a PhD student in the Department of Sociology at KU. So I am not clinical in any way. So I was curious, to your point, do you have to have a clinical background to apply? Can it be built around, like, I do mainly qualitative research. So I'm looking at doing more like applied sociology type things.
I think the postdoc, I'm going to turn this over to Jen for this because we have had debates on this. I know.
I'm sorry, you don't. Okay, but I mean, we cover from T0 to T4, really the whole gamut of translational research. And so I think it has to have a purpose and you have to be sure how it could improve the lives of people, but it doesn't. And, you know, I think Brittany's a perfect example of that. And we talked as well of how to navigate your application to really step back and think about how the science, even if very, very far away from clinical implications, could link to clinical implications. But it doesn't have to be clinical research. Is that okay?